Richie Wood has done it again! The magic man has come up with another trick! Well, here's a chance to seal it! It's done! It's Georgie Kelly! Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up!
Hello everybody, welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Thank you for being with us tonight as we look back at a bad day in Birmingham. We'll talk about that. But thankfully, there's another game to go ahead. We've got Tuesday night at home back at New York with Preston. So time to get back on the horse, hopefully. First of all, we have Mick with us. How's it going, Mick?
All good, mate. All good, thank you. You?
I'm pretty good. Just to let everyone know, will there be a bit of a Mick rant later on, do we think?
Who knows?
Yeah, I think there might be. Joy is back with us from London Mills. How are you doing, Joy?
All right, fine, thank you, lads.
Nice to speak to you again. And Danny's back with us. How are you doing, Danny? How's your internet, first of all?
Hopefully it's all right.
No, it's not.
It was all right for the first thing you said.
What? Hopefully.
Okay. We'll see how this goes. We've got people. Josh was with us, Carl's with us, Kim Haywood, Michael Carnell. John Morell says, what a wonderful weekend it's been. I'll try and find the block button for John in a moment if we can. Can't be with that kind of positivity in the comments. Thank you all for being with us. If you haven't already subscribed and all that kind of stuff, we ask you to do, so thank you if you have already. Difficult way to start, then, to be honest with you. 2-0 defeat. Let's talk about the performance first of all before we talk about sort of some factors which contributed to the defeat. But the first half killed us, to be honest with you. I thought it was a poor, from 1 to 45, I thought it was a really, really poor half. Really, really difficult to pick out any positives from that first half. I just thought it was bad.
Yeah, me too. Well, I've closed down a few tabs that I had open, so hopefully the internet is working better now.
It seems good.
Right, good. But yeah, I had a bit of slow start with internet, and we had a slow start, didn't we, in that game? We seemed to lag behind Birmingham quite a bit for the opening stages and left their play more or less completely unmarked on the left channel for their goal. It was just bad, wasn't it? That first half were bad. And we made the changes at half time and we looked more up for it. But that first half, that was just oof, all I can say.
Yeah, it was. A few more people with us, Dylan Coward, Dig Gately, Grace Kelly, Julianne Simpson, Steve Grundy, all with us. Thank you very much. It's a bit of a pattern of Matt Taylor so far, Joy, to be honest with you. For the most part, I think certainly since the turn of the year, it's been pretty good. But every so often, we have these games, Coventry as another example fairly recently, where we're just bad. I mean, if we stay up and everything goes, I suppose we can accept that. But it is a little bit of a theme that we have this performance in us.
I know that first 45 wasn't very good at all, was it? I mean, we were just like half a yard. I mean, do we give the kudos to Birmingham for pressing us as high as they did? And, we just didn't have any time on the ball. We didn't seem to have any idea. Passing was poor. I mean, it was just all round. I mean, at least we improved in the second half. But then again, we couldn't get any worse, could we? And refereeing decisions aside, I don't think 2-0 was unfair when we went in at half-time, to be brutally honest.
No, I think I completely agree, Mick. Do you think that was fair result, ignoring the issues of the decision making?
Yeah, it was. We were just absolute dogma, weren't we? You're right. We have got this performance in us, I suspect the way that Matt Taylor's looking to play is quite easily found out by coaches who have a good look. Beforehand, because they just completely nullified any possible threat that we might have had, to the point where we threatened nothing at all, not at all, probably for the whole game, arguably, but certainly that first half we were just awful. And you're right, we have got this performance in us, and it's obviously something that Matt Taylor's going to have to work on. But hopefully we have a reaction. We had a reaction after the last poor performance, and hopefully we'll have one after this. But that yesterday was not acceptable. Really poor. But I would argue you've probably got to give Birmingham some credit for the way they just nullified any possible threat that we might have.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's it, unfortunately, this year. It's this consistency or lack of consistency. Like you say, I mean, the performances, like on the whole, since Christmas, since the New Year, have been pretty on the up. They've been really good, particularly at home. But we have the odd hour, the odd half of a game, which there's just no consistency. We all get excited, our hopes are raised, and to be dashed again. But then that's being a Rotherham fan, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
What we do in the football club. John Morrell, like the points out, he did say that they would score in the first 15 minutes, and Cadra was one to watch. Yes, John. Still haven't found that block button yet. Let's dissect the first goal a little bit, Danny, because Mr. Harding is coming for a lot of stick, and I don't know what your views are on it. Just talk us through the first goal, really. What were your thoughts on the overall play, and is anybody at fault? Was it just good play by Birmingham? What do you think?
I think it was just a lapse in concentration as a whole, if I'm being honest. I mean, you can single out Wes for not getting close to his man on the flank and giving him far too much time on the ball to get the cross in. But for me, it's, you still have two ample opportunities to deal with that, Wes, and then when the ball comes in, and we just dealt with neither, if I'm being honest. Birmingham did look very dangerous down both flanks in the first half. I believe it was their number 18. He ran us absolutely ragged down that right side early on, and we had no response to him. And it was the same story on the left side. And it shows that even though Wes has come under some stick, Taylor saw that he wasn't at his best on that side, and Birmingham had the advantage over us because we switched things early down the left side by bringing Kelder off to deal with their player. Then the wide play sort of slowed down a little bit from Birmingham after that. But yeah, that first goal, it was just one of them goals where it's just like, we've seen that against Sunderland, where we've sort of copped for it a bit and it's just led for a goal. But John said on the previous podcast, Birmingham are notorious for opening the scoring within 15 minutes, and they did exactly that. And that should really be down to the whole team to know and deal with and think, right, if we keep it 15 minutes, we're in with a chance, and we just didn't. And I think Wes is copying it because, he made the obvious error in not getting close to his man. And we know what Twitter's like. As soon as they see ample opportunity to go off at someone and point the finger, they go for it. But I think with Wes, it's a little bit unfair, in my opinion.
Yeah, a few comments. Obviously says Harding was woeful. Jelly Simpson says Harding and Chio were at fault. Harding lost his man and Chio no backup. John Morrell says he would blame Harding. It was shocking defending to allow Cadra to cut inside far too easy. Jukovic, the other player, was never going to run him. That's what Joy. Wes could have done better. I'm not disputing that Wes could have done better, but he was left hung out to dry by Chio or whoever was else meant to be helping him. But that's how it is. It's a team game. He's left with two men. His options were limited. You shouldn't let him do it, but he was just trying to slow them, I think, a little bit, and it just failed.
I mean, the thing is, there's more than Wes in the team, isn't there? The thing is, Cadra is a good player. I mean, he was on loan at United, wasn't he, earlier this season, or was it last season? I can't remember. And I was surprised to find him turning up at Birmingham, given the situations they're finding themselves in. So go figure there. But, he had the freedom of St Andrews, didn't he, down that side? Yeah. And yes, Wes could have been a little bit tighter. Chio could have been backing up, which is not, Chio does normally do a good defensive backup role, but I don't know if they were caught cold because it was so early on in the game. But I've noticed that quite a few games that in that first 5-10 minutes, we're not at the races. Not just this game, But on a few occasions, and we're not at the races. It doesn't seem in 5-10 minutes of most games. If you look back.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Mick. Where's Harding? Discuss.
It's easy. It's easy, and let's just blame Wes. He's the scapegoat at the moment, so we'll just blame Wes. It's dead simple. Then we just get on with it, don't we? And that's how it seems to be. I mean, Danny said he should have closed his man down. Which one? Which one of the two that he was left with should he have closed down? We talked about this in the last game, particularly with Lee Peltier when he's playing on that right side of the back two. He gets drawn across to the opposite side, leaving whoever's playing at right back high and dry, and that's what happened with this goal. Because obviously the ball was switched across field ball, a really good ball, but it left Wes high and dry with two men. Yes, he should have been tighter. Yes, he shouldn't have shown him inside. Absolutely. But to just lay all the blame at his feet is just typical of some modern day football supporters. We've got to have somebody to blame for everything, haven't we, that goes wrong. He didn't have a good game, Wes, but nobody had a good game. He was no worse than anybody else. And yet, the only blame that you attach to him for that goal is for allowing him to cut back inside. But it was a great finish, a fabulous finish.
Well, it was a great shot, yeah.
It's I don't know. Pick your man up, Wes. Which one? Which one shall I pick up? Because if I pick him with the ball, Kadra who's got the ball, then he's going to just knock it sideways to somebody to the other lad who's with him, and he's free. And then that'll be Wes's fault as well. I find it really bizarre that we just seem to have a scapegoat all the time. It was Tom Eaves, and now Tom Eaves is not playing, so we'll move on to somebody else, and so on and so on it goes. Players make mistakes. Wes Harding is not a bad footballer. You don't become a bad footballer. He's been excellent for us over the past few years. He's having a bad run of form, and things like this, instances like this, don't help clearly. But I can't get my head around why we have to pull people apart all the time. It does me boxing, to be honest. It was a good goal, a well-worked goal. The crossfield ball was excellent. It exposed our defender to two players, to an overload on that side. He cut inside, he found corner. Fantastic finish. Yeah, that's it. Let's not get hung up on having to have somebody to blame. It does me head in. Sorry, I can't get it. I can't get my head around it at all. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah. A lot of this stick, Danny, if you look on social media, is a lot of people saying, Wes don't want to be here anyway. He's returned down this contract, this, that, and the other. And we talked about this, Matt Taylor saying this at the time, whenever it was in January, when Matt Taylor came out and said that these players essentially have no interest in signing a new contract. And we said at the time, I think that's a careless thing to say because it puts added pressure on the players. Put added pressure on Chio, Barlaser left. This is a consequence because all those fans from those comments take is, Wes don't want to be here. But that's not necessarily the case, number one. And number two, it doesn't make him any less of a professional. Yeah, he's going through a bad spell. But I don't think the bad spell has anything to do with him going, I'm not going to play for this club, sod it. I think it stems from that a little bit, the discourse and the fans added into his performances as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Wes well and truly didn't want to be here and he wanted to get out of his contract as soon as possible, then, we'd terminate it mutually and give the payout to him. Mm. So that is an option if Wes well and truly doesn't want to be here. And we've still got 10 games left, so it could possibly be on the table if Wes well and truly wants out of the club. But I don't think he does. I still think he wants to play. It's just that his future lies elsewhere. When he runs his contract down. It doesn't mean he doesn't want to play as many minutes as he can, because part of the thing that attracts you to football is playing football. Yes, I get some players are more about money and themselves, etc., but with a club of our size, if you have a big ego, for example, one person who did have a big ego that ended up just not playing the final few games of a season, like Wes, I don't think Wes would be like that. Wes is one of those people where he's committed to the team. But yes, yes, Taylor said that thing. Yes, we're all thinking that Wes doesn't want to be here. I think he does, and I think A, there was the added pressure of his previous club there as well. B, he did get flung out to dry, like you say, by Peltier a little bit. So again, it comes back to me saying he's getting some unfair stick.
Yeah. Josh Hinsley says, get Kyoso in it right back. This is another ingredient to add into the mix there, Joy. I think as fans, we all are still excited to see Kyoso. We've still not properly seen him. What we've seen, he's done quite well. And then Wes is not playing amazingly and still getting to Kyoso. That's feeding into another bit of frustration, I suppose, from fans.
Yeah, and I mean, Kyoso had done nothing wrong, did he, when he went off injured at Luton? Yeah. Because he went off with the boot on, and we obviously hurt his ankle again. And we've not seen him since. But obviously, he's been fit for some time now. He wasn't on the bench, but because we've got other injuries, he's found himself back on the bench. And you can understand people's viewpoint if they see that Wes is not performing to his high standards that he has previously. Why not give Kyoso a go? Because Kyoso didn't do anything wrong from what I see in previous performances up until this point. So you can see the argument, and you can see why people would latch on to that. But we don't see them in training every day, do we? We don't know what's going on. We don't know what the tactical boards are, etc. That's Matt Taylor's remit and his staff. So they obviously have their reasons for why Kyoso isn't in. I mean, I couldn't hazard a guess at what they would or wouldn't, may or may not be. But I mean, maybe we might see him on Tuesday. Who knows?
True. Very true. Do you see how I waited for that move on to you now, Mick? Can you think what I'm going to ask you about? Mike the Miller, before we start, Mike the Miller says players make mistakes. Yes, they do, Mick. So do referees. But yeah, they are so often. Mick.
Hang on. Look what I found in the drawer earlier.
Big man. Wow, here we go. Jeff Eltringham, the referee. A couple of key decisions that certainly one that he got wrong. Second one's he's obviously up for debate. The first one's the corner that's given for the second goal. There's not much to analyse, to be honest with you, Mick. He's made a mistake and he's given a corner when he shouldn't have done. That's the top and bottom of it, isn't it? Yeah,
it's as simple as that. He's got a clear view of it and he's made the wrong decision. It's that simple. I mean, that didn't cost us the goal. What cost us the goal was shoddy defending. But obviously, we should have been taking a goal kick rather than defending a corner. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot else you can say about it. I don't know what he thinks he's seen. He obviously assumes that Chio has touched the ball. He was one of 23 people on the pitch. He was the only one that thought Chio had. Everybody else, including the Birmingham City players, were off walking back towards centre circle. So nobody expected the corner to be given, but it is what it is, isn't it? It's going to happen. And I was screaming at as much as the next man that it was a shocker of a decision. It wasn't for me. It wasn't his worst decision of the game by some distance. But yeah, it was a poor call. But you've got to defend it better. I mean, you're going to get corners given against you, whether or not they should be given. I can't understand why. We've talked about this as zonal marking and stuff, haven't we? From corners, Don't work.
No, I don't know. I know you're just saying. It's and for different circumstances, Joy, but it flashed back to the second corner at Reading when Wes gave away a needless corner. As soon as the corner was given, I thought, you know what, they're going to score from this. You just had that feeling in your bones, and then you can't excuse the defending. The defending from the corner is so bad. We had 2 or 3 chances to clear it. It's just really bad defending again.
Yeah, I mean, I agree totally with what Mick said. I mean, the ref made a horrendous decision. It wasn't a corner. We all saw that. Everybody was screaming, and but it was given. But then, like you said, the defence it just went haywire, didn't it? You know, and I mean, the guy that scored, from what I can understand, it wasn't it a defender?
I think so,
Normally score. Perhaps John can tell us. I don't know, but he looked as shocked as anybody that it actually got through to him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah. Awful.
Yeah, just bad. Let's move on to the second part of the refereeing debate, Danny, and that is Jordan Hugill and Austin Trusty, I think his name was. They were at each other all afternoon. To be fair, this was an ongoing battle throughout the game. There was a couple of instances where we could have had a penalty. I will defend the referee a little bit here and saying from one angle, it looks like that Hugill has a little bit of Trusty's shirt. Now, I'm not sure the referee could see that, to be honest, from his viewpoint. But if the referee has seen that, then I can maybe understand why he didn't give a penalty. I still think it is a penalty. What were your view on it, Danny?
Well, thank you for moving away from their second goal, because I missed it because I went down for a coffee because I was annoyed already. I came back up and our last says to us, "Oh yeah, you missed a goal and it wasn't even a corner." All right, sound. But yeah, before I talk about Hugill's ongoing man-marking incident with Trusty, the thing about Billick having his front tooth out.
John Brown,
yeah.
That was bad, that.
Yeah, that was bad, but it wasn't a sending off because it was no way intentional. You know, who was it who had his tooth out for us? Was it Sean Raggett?
I think it might have been Raggett, yeah.
Yeah, and their player only got a booking because it wasn't intentional, but yeah, he's going to have a false tooth. I'm looking for the lad. But yeah, his ongoing battle with, was it Trusty, did you say?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. From my perspective, in the away end, it's a blatant penalty because Trusty drags him down effectively. And then they both get back up, carry on, and then a few minutes later it happens again. And it's just like, if it's happened once and you think they've got over each other's shirt, fair enough, right? But second time around, and they do it again, it has to go one of two ways. You can't let it go twice. Either Trusty's committed the foul or Eltringham thinks Hugill's committed the foul. To let it go twice with no reprimand whatsoever. Like we've seen Ollie Rathbun jumping up and down on the pitch when a decision isn't made. I was jumping up and down at the back of the away end because the decision wasn't made. And I think the 1,300 millers that were there were jumping up and down as well. Because it would just frustrate him. And a few decisions that I saw, because I didn't see the second goal, really wound you up because it's like, that's just not. You know what I mean? It's either soft and it's been given for Birmingham and we have something that's a little bit more blatant and nothing happens, or some decision just goes completely against you and it's like, well, how's that happen then? And it just wound me up. That's all it was. And I said this on the other podcast. The trip down and back was much more entertaining than the football itself.
Yeah. For me, Joy, on penalties, I like them where it's got to be a penalty. The referee's got to be certain of it. If the referee thinks that they're pushing and pulling each other, then that's the reason for his decision. I think it's massively Hugill being pulled more than the other. But I don't know. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Troy?
I personally thought it was a penalty. I didn't think it was actually that much dissimilar to the one that Dicky did on Hugill in the QPR game, to be brutally honest. You know, I mean, there was a lot of argy-bargy between them two all match. And I don't know if it's Hugill's reputation or whatever, but, you know, has he got one for, you know, getting up the noses of centre halves and, you know, being 6 of one, half a dozen of the other? I mean, again, we don't know what sort of stories go around refereeing circles, do we? I mean, do they meet up and say, you know, watch Hugill, you know, he's a bit dodgy, he might be pulling shirts 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, a bit like Ogbenny falling down, you know. Who knows? Because there just seem to be these decisions that are made arbitrarily from my perspective. I mean, I'm looking through different coloured glasses because I support Rotherham, so I want it to be a Rotherham penalty. But, you know, is it, you know, was it? You know, had it been given, I could see where a Birmingham fan would say, yeah. But then again, they might have thought they got away with one. I don't know. Again, what did John think? You know, it'd be interesting to see it from the, an interpretation from the other side.
Yeah. John Morrell says, just first of all, a Dolphin kicking somebody in the face. He says, doesn't need to be in rules. He is seriously endangering an opponent, which is a red card by the rules. He also says, if we're claiming that was a penalty, they should have had one too. Yeah, I don't think the referee, in terms of the holding in the box, I just don't think the referee dealt with it very well. He didn't push it one way or another. You know, you've seen other games where these issues are dealt with. This isn't an ongoing issue we have every single game. This was a sort of one-off incident in this game. So I think the referee could have dealt with it better, Mick. Whether that was giving a penalty both ways for both incidents or giving fouls either way, I just don't think he dealt with the pushing and pulling very well.
I think I'm going to upset Mike here because I think the way the referee dealt with that incident, there were 2 or 3 in quick succession. And at the very first one, the way that the referee dealt with it from the first one onwards was incompetent and complete incompetence. And I'll tell you why I say that is because at the very first one, he pulled Hugill and Trusty to one side. He spoke to both of them about pulling, sent them on the way, and then Trusty rugby tackles Hugill to the floor and he ignores it. If you're going to speak to them and you're going to tell them not to do it, when they do it, you have to do something about it. If you don't, what's the point? It's a penalty. There is no question. There's no ifs. There's no buts. It's a penalty. It's a rugby tackle. It's literally rugby tackled him to the floor. And not only that, on one of the occasions, I don't know whether it was the first one or the second one, he then laid on him while he was on the floor to stop him getting up.
He did that a few times.
If you're going to have a word with players about and tell them not to do a specific thing, when they do that specific thing, 30 seconds later, you have to penalise them or don't talk to them. Don't mention it. Don't deal with it. But you're pulling them to one side, telling them you're going to deal with it, and then don't. I mean, what is the point? It's really poor, really poor. He was just incredibly inconsistent again. Another one. You know, there was an instance where he gave a free kick in the first half against Cam Humphreys for climbing. It's arguable whether it were climbing or not, but give it. If you're going to give it. But be consistent, because 5 minutes from time, Cam Humphreys climbed all over a Birmingham player, rode him for 5 yards down the touchline, and he gave us a throw-in.
Yeah.
And it was an absolute blatant climbing all over his back, far more blatant than the first one. It was ridiculous. Just if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you set a precedent, maintain that precedent. It's not difficult. That part of it is not difficult. You know, I can almost forgive giving the corner. Player's foot moves towards it, maybe angles. You know, I can understand it. But when you have a word with a player and say, do not do this, I'm watching you. When they go and do it, you just ignore it. I can't get my head around it. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. And it's little things like that that frustrate football supporters. And I understand, again, I'll qualify it. It's a tough job. It's not an easy job, and it's not a job that I would want to do. But you nail your course at mast and then turn your back on it and walk away. What's the point? You know, it's not good enough. It's not acceptable. But having said all that, none of those things are why we lost the game. We get a penalty, maybe it changes the game, maybe, but I would doubt that very much. Yeah, based on the 90 minutes. But you've got to stand on if you're gonna pull something up, stand on. Deal with it.
Yeah. Back on the football, Danny John Morrell, I think this is a really good point. It says the key for him was that Dean and Birmingham dealt with Hugill quite well. We couldn't deal with Jukovic. Now, that is true, but I have a problem with that in that Jukovic is nothing special. He is a good a good, solid championship big lad. You know, he'll cause you a bit of physical problems, but if you're a good defence, you should be able to deal with somebody like that. And in fact, he must have our number because every time we play Birmingham, he does well against us every single sodding time. But that's a problem. Again, going for this maybe for next season, to be honest with you, assume we stay up. But you've got to be better against those type of players. If you're Cam Humphreys, for example, he's still progressing in his career. If Cam Humphreys is going to be as good as we think he is, you need to be able to find a way to sort out something like Jukovic, because he is a bog standard championship player. Maybe like similar to Hugo, he's a championship player, not top end. We need to find ways of dealing with players like that. Yeah,
we definitely do. I mean, could argue that if we had someone, you know, like Morrison or Wright or in the defence, someone who's like been at the club a little bit as well. I mean, we did have Peltier in there, but he's more of, you know, your right side, and we've deployed him out as a right back more recently. So if you had more of your stereotypical championship centre half, maybe they deal with Jukovic better, maybe they don't. But you raise a good point. I do think that Jukovic's team talk is, you're against Rotherham, go and do you, Petal. You know, because he always does well against us, and it is something we should deal with. But they're the lessons we learn in the championship, and Matt Taylor's new to the championship. Hopefully he's learned that lesson. But yeah, I do think second half we came on a lot. We put Birmingham under a lot of pressure, but it showed how good their defence were by riding out that pressure, because there was that solid spell where we just kept getting corner after corner after corner. So fair play if you had over 7 corners, because your money will have come in for that. But when we have that level of pressure, you need to capitalise on it and find a way through it. We didn't, and Birmingham dealt with the pressure to the point where near the end of the second half, we looked like we were flagging because we put them under so much pressure and just didn't get anything from it. Because whilst they were under the cosh a little bit, I thought, hey, we could still nick a goal here, even though we've been denied 2 penalties and we've been ragged about a bit. I was like, hey, we could still score here, but as the game petered off towards the end, it's like, potentially not. You know, that was our time, and Birmingham dealt with us, which is unfortunate. But yeah, fair play to them for dealing with us. See, I'm fair.
Yeah. Right by the first half, Joy, we should give Matt Taylor credit for changing it up at half time. Doffin came off for Jamie Lindsay, and Yelder came off for Washington and went to a 3-5-2 basically. And for 15-20 minutes, they were properly under the cosh. I think if we'd have got 1, I think we'd have got 2, because I just felt the momentum was with us. But they stood up to the test, and we still didn't really create anything other than corners and set pieces. I mean, if you got Harley Dean in your defence, you should be quite good at defending set pieces, because he's a big lad who can command the area quite well. But we did put him under pressure, and I suppose that deserves a bit of credit.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to give credit to their defence. I mean, like you say, like both what you and Johnny said, that it was really intense. I mean, we should, you know, if we're going to have 7 corners, you want to see some, you know, outcome from it and have a goal. But like you said,
You've gone quiet, Joy.
Have we?
There you go.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Like you said, it was an intense period of pressure, but even though it was, we didn't look like we were ever going to put it in the back of the net, did we? You know, I mean, I didn't think like, you know, I was like, it's coming, you know, it's going to happen any time now. You know, we had but again, their defence, you've just got to hold your hands up and say, you know, they had our number, didn't they?
Yeah, they absolutely did. A couple of comments in here. Mike the Miller says, not upset with you, mate. Don't agree with the word you used to describe the referee, which was incompetent. He would use the word phrase very poor, but we're all entitled to opinion. Michael Carnell on the fact of the penalty says he thinks if that was given the other way around to Birmingham fans wouldn't have had any. I wouldn't have any complaints.
Although I will say something about the penalties. I think if we'd got a penalty for one of the 2 Hugo things, I think he would have given the penalty to Birmingham later on. I think he didn't give Birmingham the penalty. Soft as it looked from the away end, he didn't give it because there was such an uproar about our 2 penalties. Like, I can't give that, can I? No,
I can't remember that one end.
It was the one where we're running for it, and I think he's basically been bodied off the ball by Humphreys, and
was that Hannibal that went down?
I think it might have been.
He's lucky not to get booked. Sideshow.
Yeah,
I do think that is probably right though. I think if he gives that, I think he's looking for an excuse to go. He's just seen that type of referee.
But I mean, but like you say, Mick, I agree with you, because look at how he tried to hold up the play in his own half, his own corner flag, by the way, which is I've not seen that before. That was very odd. And that was a very soft foul that was given by the linesman.
It wasn't a foul.
No, it wasn't, but the lino gave it.
I mean, that I don't know what on earth that linesman were doing.
I don't.
It was just the most bizarre decision. One of the most bizarre decisions I've ever seen. Because Hannibal was backing into the Rotherham player, obviously holding the ball, trying to keep it in the corner, and he just sort of bent his knees a little bit just to get a little bit more purchase to push back. And there was just nothing at all, nothing. And then he started flagging. And yet, 5 minutes earlier, when Chio got brought down by the face right next to him, where the linesman had to jump out of the way, he never gave a thing. It was a bizarre decision, that one. Really.
There was the incident as well with Hannibal where he's effectively leaning into Chio and wants a free kick for it, but he gives a throw for us. It's like, so at least the referee was on the money with that one. But yeah, like I say, I just think that if he'd have given one of the two penalties to us, he would have given the one to Birmingham.
I think probably right.
It was just the ground that the referee set for himself. That's what I thought.
Yeah. John Morell says he was surprised that their midfield in the second half was 3 kids, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and in there, and not ones to try to put a bit of pressure on. We lost the midfield battle again, Mick. There is a creativity problem in this team. If Tarek Foster didn't particularly turn up yesterday, to be honest, he had the odd moment, but he didn't turn up, and he didn't turn up, so we didn't turn up in an attacking sense. And that's a problem for me. Foster was an amazing player, and he will have good games, but he'll also have bad games. We need to find different ways of scoring goals, and we're really struggling for that without it going through Foster at the minute.
Yeah, we are. Conor Coventry didn't really make much of an impact on the game. Foster, as we've talked about a couple of times on this podcast, he kind of drifts in and out of games. When he's on it, boy, is he on it. But when he's not, he's anonymous for big parts of the game. So he's playing in a position which I think is probably not used to necessarily in that central role. He's more of a wide player, isn't he? So whether that's having an effect on it, I don't know. But there was nothing there in that midfield yesterday. In fact, off the top of my head, it's difficult to remember who played in there. Coventry, we didn't really see very much of. Doffin went off at half time and Jamie Lindsay came on. He didn't have much of an impact on the game. Foster, as we've said, didn't really have much of an impact on the game. Fergie, hardly any impact on the game. Too many players. Well, obviously too many players had an off day. Nobody really had an on day, did they? With probably the exception of Victor. Only had a couple of 3 things to do, and 2 of them were pick ball out of the back of net because the people in front of me had not done the job properly. So bad day at the office.
Yeah. John Morell says his free kick was found in Digbeth, which I assume was somewhere near Birmingham. It was that bad. Shelley says it's no coincidence these performances come without Rathbone and Hall. When Rathbone are out, we massively miss Ollie. Yeah, I think that's another person who creates something, Danny. We're not blessed with creativity from 1 to 25 in the squad or wherever it is. And we are missing Rathbone, who looks like he's not going to be back until after the international break, which is a big blow.
Yeah, it is. But it's good that it's not something a little bit more serious with Ollie. If I'm being honest, looking at maybe 2 to 3 games out just after international break, which, isn't too bad for Ollie, which means he can get going again later in the season. I mean, Radio Sheffield said the exact same to me. It's going to be a big miss without Ollie. And it's like, yeah, because he's the traction engine in midfield and he has that impact. But you can see how well we can play when everybody turns up, when you've got the midfield of Adolphin, Coventry and Fozu, because we saw that against QPR. But at the same time, when those players have an off day, which, like you say, a lot of the team did have an off day other than Victor, that's where it starts to come apart. It's a midfield 3 where everybody needs to be switched on. But if they're not switched on, that's when you're missing a player like Ollie who would really gear them up and get them going, both for his own effort and with him with the armband getting everybody else going as well. Don't get me wrong, I like Hugo's captain, but I just think Ollie's better. Because if you have a captain in midfield, they can dictate every which way. Whereas if you have a striker as captain, sort of looking backwards, but if you have a goalkeeper as captain, they're sort of always looking forwards. You know, that for me, it has to be a centre half or a midfielder. That's just me, though.
Yeah. Phil says midfield creativity is our Achilles heel. Here it is. Michael Connell says, what I noticed about Fosu is he'll play 2 or 3 games and he is awesome, and then maybe 1 or 2 bad ones. To be honest with you, Joy, I'm fine with that because we can't just rely on one guy to do everything all the time. You know, if he was amazing every single game, he'd be playing for Burnley or something like that. You've got to accept that he's not going to be perfect every single game, and somebody else needs to take up that mantle of doing something creative. We just lack that, don't we? We lack the personnel to sort of take up that when he's not on it.
I mean, and you've got to also think that Fosu has come to Rotherham United, and not being rude about our club, are we? We're not at the top of the pecking order, are we? When it comes to creative midfielders, let's be honest. So that fits in with he's having 2 or 3 good games and 1 dodgy game. Let's hope that's his dodgy game, and the 2 games coming up are going to be his awesome games, because we need those 2. I mean, these 2 games coming up, I think, are quite key to what happens subsequently in the rest of the season. But I mean, obviously we've lost Dan. He was our creative spark with spraying his passes around in his quarterback fashion. Coventry's not that guy. I mean, he's that little bit younger, and I understand that he wasn't very well, was he either? And he had tonsillitis. So that might have been a little bit why he was below par as well on Saturday. So hopefully, a few more antibiotics down his neck, he might be feeling a little more sprightly on Tuesday. So, but I agree. The creativity aspect is, where we're going to get that from going forward. I don't know. Is it something that we've just got to accept that this is the way it is for the remainder of this season with what we've got, obviously? Having said that, I mean, I did think that when Blackett came on, he put a couple of decent passes together and out of defence. So, maybe, who knows? I don't know. But I think it's something that going forward, we're going to have to look at finding someone to fill that Barlaser gap going forward. Yeah,
I agree. John Morell says that we did seriously miss the midfielder who can put the foot on the ball, then it seemed to bypass the field most of the time, which obviously gave us no platform to build upon. Yeah, it did. Fosu has been better at home than he has been away from home as well. 2 games at home, so hopefully. It isn't the greatest pitch at Birmingham. I wonder if Fosu needs a bit of a carpet to play on. I don't know how good the New York pitch is. Let's move away from Rotherham United very briefly before we talk about the Preston game. We need to talk about the millions of points deductions that are potentially coming from the Championship that do impact us. We will briefly cover them. Wigan have not played their players for the 4th time in, I think, 12 months. They are set for an immediate 3-point deduction. Coventry could eventually be worse, but I think it's just an immediate 12-point deduction. And Huddersfield could very well be in administration by Thursday. If they are in administration by Thursday, they will get an automatic 12-point deduction. Burnley are under a transfer embargo, but that's just a bit pointless.
They're under a transfer embargo until the next summer window. So it's like, okay, so they can't sign free agents.
Well, they're under an EFL transfer embargo until they're not an EFL club anymore.
Right, okay, so
which will be very shortly.
Right, so surely instead of going, you're under an EFL transfer embargo, but it'll come into effect the next time you're in the EFL. That sounds like more of a thing of, you're under a transfer embargo. Well, we're not going to be here in summer.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair with Burnham, I don't think it's a major issue. I think it's just an accounting issue. So
it's an audit thing about not doing the books, something to do with them after coming down from the Premier League. So finance things,
On the Wigan and Huddersfield stuff, though, Mick, without delving too much into their issues, I mean, we were waving the red flag about the Wigan thing when they first didn't pay the players. It was a major red flag. It's turned out to be a major red flag. I don't know if you've seen this, but he put out a tweet yesterday. The Talal, I can't remember his name. He put out a tweet, and somebody's now suggesting that it was an AI written statement. It wasn't actually a statement written by himself. It's
Have you read it?
I have read it. Yeah, I read it at the time.
It didn't say anything.
No, it doesn't say anything. No, I mean, the serious worries about that club and the way they're being run. I didn't trust him at the time when he came, and it all seemed odd at the time, and everything that's happened since then that he's done and not paid the players. I am genuinely worried about what's going to happen to their club, because I don't want to see that type of thing after any club, especially with the crap that they've been through as well. 2 years ago, that first administration, they've been so much crap, their fans.
Yeah, I feel for Wigan fans. I really do. They're a decent club. They're a decent set of supporters, and they don't deserve to have to be put through this time and time again. But that seems to be the way a lot of football owners are at the moment, isn't it? We said last season, I think we said about the red flags that were flying at Wigan, and again, here we are, probably 12 months later, and we're still not paying players or paying staff. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there's obviously some major issues behind the scenes somewhere. And likewise with Huddersfield. I mean, we said, I seem to remember the pre-season podcast. I talked about Huddersfield and the issues that they'd had in the closed season in terms of finances. They made the playoffs the season before, but there were red flags in that closed season about finance and getting rid of players, and it was clear that they were going to be in trouble this season. And here we are, coming towards the back end of it, and lo and behold, they are. It's not great, is it? It's not great for the supporters. I mean, from a purely mercenary footballing point of view, for us, it's great because it's two clubs that are going to be on less points. And if we have an absolute disaster of the last 10 games, then it will help us. Hopefully, that's not going to be an issue, but it's still not great. And I guess the overspending of owners is coming home to roost, and also the EFL's ability to pick owners. That's not the right word, is it? But vet new owners is also being shown up to be not fit for purpose. So it's not great for the supporters of these clubs, though. Not great at all.
No, it does enforce the need for this independent panel or independent commission, whatever, to come in and vet these people properly. From a Rotherham United view, Danny, point of view, it takes a little bit of pressure off, to be honest with you, because we're sitting here now saying that probably two of those spots are done. If Huddersfield get 12 points, they are done. There's no questions about that. Wigan, it's only 3 points, but that would put us 11 points clear with 10 games left. So we're sitting here saying that then that helps us, but it's not. It seems like every season there's about 50 points taken off teams at Championship. It's just becoming a consistent joke. Yeah,
it is. And I mean, you've got Reading facing 6 as well, aren't you? So that could be another team that's drawn back into it. It's just the gap that opens up between going to the Premier League and coming back down. A lot of clubs now cannot handle it because the sudden influx of money is so big. So it then bloats everything out of proportion in the Premier League. And then if you don't stay in the Premier League, you've got, 3 years of parachute payments?
At least 3.
Yeah, of parachute payments to effectively get your Sen stabilised. Right, but the only way to stabilise that is to go back into the Premier League in a lot of clubs' views. So anyway. For clubs like Wigan and Huddersfield who are just trying to build up, Wigan you can understand because it's like a little bit iffy with the owner situation, but with Huddersfield they've come off parachute payments and it has really affected them to the point now where it's not sustainable and they're looking at administration. But you say it occupies 2 relegation spots, potentially, but there's still one left, isn't there?
There is, but did you see Blackpool on Saturday?
But you see my point. It's not over until somebody sings. You know what I mean? There's still that one place there, so we need to concentrate on the run we've got in front of us, which is now a run of teams that we haven't beaten at all this season. Might play into our hands, might play against us, but we need to concentrate on ourselves and just bag as many points as we can in the process. Like, let Blackpool do their thing. and Cardiff and whoever else is down there.
Birmingham were.
Yeah, Birmingham were. Just let them do their thing and concentrate on our thing. Yeah, keep an eye on it, but don't let it influence our performances. We just need to keep our heads down and go, right, play who's in front of you, get as many points as you can. I still think we'll be all right, but there's still one space left,
Yeah. John Malone, the Birmingham situation, Sean Maloney's press conference after the game said it all. You could tell by his body language they were toast. They actually had a fans forum, I think, on Thursday about everything was, sunshine and roses, and then 2 days later they're not playing the players. I mean, you just don't know what to do with some of them. Shelley's noticed how they're all ex-Prem clubs, and John Malone says West Brom are the ones to watch if they don't go up this season. They're in serious trouble. Admin could be the best income because of many, many things. Yeah, Joy, we've been there before. I feel like our misgivings were maybe slightly more honest than other clubs, but that maybe just the Rotherham hat being on. We don't wish points deduction on anybody, but this is football. This is the EFL.
I mean, and as was just pointed out, I've noticed that they're all ex-Premiership clubs, aren't they? Cardiff are down there, Blackpool ex-Prem, Huddersfield, Wigan, and relatively recently all of them. And QPR.
Yeah.
See, Dr. Death was Dr. Death and his dead game was at it against Watford on Saturday. Apparently, Watford fans were saying, "I can't believe this. Is this the 5th or 6th player that's gone down with cramp?"
So he's back.
He's back. So and they had a lower XG than we did, didn't they? As well for
Did they
goals
really?
scored, even though they won 1-0. So that's about right, isn't it? That sums it up, doesn't it? But, I know. But I mean, I know people say to Tony, "Open your wallet, man. Let them moss out." But do you? Is it better to be? I was having this discussion yesterday with somebody. Is it better to be small and well run and managed? Because my barber's a Charlton fan, and talking about fans that are under the pressure, they're looking at being sold again for the 3rd time, and they're just and they were playing Accrington yesterday and they couldn't beat them. We've got to look at hear about stories from other teams and their lived experiences. And I was saying to him, this last 10 years while we've been at New York, I said, yeah, we might, we've had 2 promotions, 3 years in the Championship, and then yo. I said, and every year for those last 10 years, we've had something riding for those last 2-3 months of the season. And it really has been a roller coaster. But, we're not paying the players, are we? We're in a bit of debt, but not what's 100 and odd million. There's some of them are. Yeah. I mean, what is the right way to run a club? Is it to sort of splash out? And we have splashed out for us, haven't we, this January transfer window? Or do we play the slow but steady game? I don't know. I mean, we were bit in 2008 and the year before that when we had our points deduction. And have we learnt from that? That's how Tony came into the club. Yeah. I mean, I know he's a Yorkshire businessman and that it has its own connotations in itself, but is it serving as well? Who knows?
If we stay up this season, hopefully it shows it does. Moving back onto Rotherham United, Mick, we've got off the Preston game Tuesday. How do you feel in terms of our status in the league? I mean, I feel really confident, and I don't think I've felt this in terms of survival. I don't think I've felt this confident about survival maybe since the days of Ronnie Moore at this level. Every time even under Stevens kept us up, but it was tight. Neil Warnock, it was tight. I just feel like we're a couple of games away from it being done, and we're sitting here early mid-March. I can't remember feeling so like we're just so close so early on in the season. We feel in a really good place, even having lost.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think we're probably two wins and a draw away from being safe. But those 2 wins are difficult to come by in this league. You know, but the reality is that, I think, like I said, 2 wins and a draw, and I'm with you. At this stage of the season, I can't remember feeling quite this optimistic at this stage of the championship season, or any other for that matter. But we all know that this division can come and absolutely bite you on the backside, can't it?
Oh, yeah.
So once I'll be happy once those points are in the bag. Happy days. But the things are all right at the moment.
Yeah. Michael says, "Don't count your chickens yet." No, I mean, anybody that knows me, I'm one of the most pessimistic fans when it comes to Rotherham United in terms of what the worst that could possibly happen. But I just got confidence, Danny, that this team can pick these points up. I just have faith that Matt Till will get it done. It'll get us over the line relatively comfortable. How are you feeling about the rest of the season?
Well, I'm just doing my maths about our points per game at the minute to see whereabouts we are. But overall, I still feel confident about us staying up, if I'm being honest. Like you say, it just seems different. You know, you look at the track records of previous championship seasons, and it's just a bit, you know, we're in a good place and the team looks good. It's just that, like we saw against Birmingham, there is a shoddy result still in us.
Oh, yeah.
But you also look at some of the magnitude of games. We've had some big games at home. You know, I know it was under the previous regime, but Reading at home, Blackburn at home, Sunderland at home. And then you have the teams at home that are out of form, you know, like, for example, QPR, where we effectively didn't play that well, but still got at them enough to win. Away form's worrying, if I'm being honest, but when isn't it for us in the Championship? But the difference is we seem to be much better at home. And yeah, I just have... There's still that bit in my head that it's just like, we still need to concentrate on what we're doing and pick up as many points as we can, but there's still that voice in my head going, but we're in a good position. You know, we're 20th, and I don't want us to finish in a position starting with a 20, if I'm being honest. I'd rather be in the teens. But you look at us 20th, 40 points after 36, which is an average of just over 1 point a game. So times 46. So we're on course for just over 51 points as it stands at the minute, which isn't too bad, based on average. And with that, you say we need 5. Some people say we need 5 points to stay up. Probably, yeah. But for me, I'd like to beat that 49 points that we had in 15-16. So we can then say it is comfortable. But I think we are comfortable at the minute after a bad result. I mean, you know, everybody else lost. We're 8 points away from the relegation zone. We've got a 2-point cushion on the team that's below us, which is then a 6-point cushion from them, etc., etc. So we've got a nice little gap, but we can't be complacent with the gap. And that's what I mean by we need to keep the ball rolling, if you like. But yeah, I'm maybe not quite as confident as you, Mike, if I'm being honest. But I'm going to say quietly confident that we can still push up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look at we're really just looking at Blackpool because of points deduction. Probably just looking at Blackpool. Their points per game takes them to 40 points. Well, we're on 40 points. They would have to significantly beat their current points per game to stay up. So I think that's why I feel so confident. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's move on to the Preston game because that's part of the survival bid. First of all, the referee is Steve Martin. This will be the 4th time he's refereed us this season. He refereed the Reading game at home, which we also beat 4-0. He refereed a loss, which I can't remember who the loss was to be honest with you. Hull at home, 4-2 loss to Hull. And he also refereed the last draw before the World Cup, the 1-1 draw at Luton. No major issue. I think he was poor in the Hull game. He didn't give Tom Eaves a penalty after Tom Eaves being dragged down. Main thing to note from Steve Martin is he wears the tightest fitting refereeing shirts you will ever see. That's something to look out for. He loves himself a little bit. Joy, it's a big game. It's a home game, so it's a big game. But Preston, much like Coventry were, Preston are a proper team. You know, they've got the faults, but they are a proper championship team. It's going to be a test, but for me, I back us at home against nearly anybody.
It's not going to be an easy game, I don't think at all, because they went through a little bit of a blip recently that they have now come out of. because Ryan Lowe was under some pressure, wasn't he? Until a couple of games back, and then they've won 2 games back to back, I think. So it isn't going to be easy, and Preston never is. But I always seem to enjoy our games when we play Preston at the New York Stadium.
Is that because you think of that playoff game every time?
Well, that's one of my favourites of all time at the New York. But they're all good. I mean, that first season, the first home game, we were back into the 2000 when we first came up in, is it? Yeah, 14-15 season. Our first home game was against Preston, wasn't it? And they'd just been relegated, and it was 0-0, wasn't it? So,
yes.
And it was a good game. So yeah, I mean, they're not easy games against Preston, but we also always, I'm not going to say always, but we're on the majority of the time, we seem to be on the positive side of the result, shall we say?
Yeah, historically, yeah. They're not big scorers and they don't concede many. They've got 3 0-0s in the last 5 games. They scored only 32 goals this season, which makes them the 3rd least scorers. Only Huddersfield and Wigan have scored less than them, but they've only conceded 38, which makes them one of the best defensively. The 12th Mick, and I feel it's similar to the Coventry game. Similarly to a couple other games. I think it's a good benchmark for us. Let's see where we are. The season's not done. I know it's not done, but we need to be sort of seeing how we go against these sort of teams. Because if we look into the future, let's say next season, let's say all things being well, we do survive. We need to know where we are in the Championship next season. Are we, capable of fighting against mid-table teams like Preston? Are we going to struggle against mid-table teams? It's a good test for us and especially for Matt Taylor at this level as well.
Yeah, it is, and Preston are a team or a club that we should be aspiring to be like, and that that's sort of the next step in our development as a football club for me. They went up into the Championship with us at some stage.
Season after us.
Say again?
Did they got the season after us?
Was it the season after us? Sorry, apologies, but they stayed there, and they've stayed there since. And have been pushing at times for those playoffs as well on some occasions. So they may have even made the playoffs. I can't remember, but either way, it's the model that they have and the way that club is in terms of the league positions, not necessarily the way it's run, because there are other issues there, I think, as well, aren't there, financially. But that's obviously where we need to be aiming, so it's a good benchmark, and it's going to be a tough game. And I'll take a point right now. I'll tell you now, I'll have a point. Let's just keep that board ticking over. But 3 will be better. But it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not at all. John Morrell says Preston are a better away team than they are at home, aren't they? Proper hard, disgusting team to play against. Got to work your backside off to get something out of them. Yes, you absolutely do, Danny. What do you expect from us, from us change-wise? We changed 3-5-2 during the game. Could you see a start change in formation, or do you think it'll be more likely to go back to the 4-3-3?
Oh God! I've just had a look at Preston's stats, and they haven't scored that many this season. I think they've only scored 32.
Yeah.
So I don't know, the way the defence played against Birmingham, you could see maybe a little shuffle potentially, like maybe Kyoso coming in for Harding, or Peltier being pushed out a bit wider, and maybe a Dauphin coming into the centre back position, which I don't really want to see, because a Dauphin's been more of your midfielder this season. This is one of the fewer games where I actually don't know. I actually don't know. This is one where I'm putting my faith in Matt Taylor to make the right call. And in my opinion, Shelley's brought up a very good point. Bring Blackett into the back line and push Peltier out wider. That's a possibility. Maybe bring Kyoso in, because we know Humphreys likes to have that confidence of a more senior defender next to him, whether he's played with Wood, Peltier, Morrison, Wright, maybe potentially Blackett as well. But yeah, maybe bring Lindsay into the midfield. You know, he's not quite Ali Rathbone, but he's still the terrier that runs about. I mean, we said he didn't really do much against Birmingham. He still went in quite hard a few times, I think. So it just offers a little bit more bite in midfield. I personally will bring Ferguson out of the front three, if I'm being honest. Maybe bring, maybe bring, maybe Bramwell in, potentially.
He was bad, though, when he came on.
Yeah, but...
I know what you mean.
Yeah, who else could play on the left side? Maybe have Fosu there, and then you have your more flat midfield three of Adolphin, Lindsay and Coventry, and then Fosu's your left-sided outlet. You could make changes, for sure. You could make changes, but I don't know, will Taylor try and shake it up massively, or will he hope it sticks and improves the way he's got it at the minute?
I suppose the thing, Joy, after the Coventry game, we were poor, and we had conversations about maybe this needs changing, that needs changing. He kept it very, very similar, and we went and beat a very, very good Sunderland team. I suppose it's important not to throw all the hard work out just because of one bad 45 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. And we've got to make sure, I mean, you know, relatively speaking, Matt Taylor's a novice at the Championship level, isn't he? So he's learning as he goes along as well. And I don't think we should forget that. And he's not making a bad fist of it, in my view. I don't think there'll be that many changes. It wouldn't surprise me if the team that starts is the team that ended up at Birmingham.
Yeah, I can see that.
To be brutally honest, you know, that wouldn't surprise me if we start off with and go with three at the back, because we seem to, you know, for whatever reason, and I do think Blackett and Humphreys would possibly work rather well together. I know we didn't see much of Blackett, but there was nothing there that sort of, you know, filled me with dread. And like I said, a few of the passes out of defence were quite good, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, they were, and that's something I thought make that. It depends on Blackett's availability, really, in terms of fitness levels. How fit is he? But it allows you to put Peltier back on the right hand side, and it allows you to take Wes out because I think maybe Wes needs time out of the game. Maybe, I don't know. But it does allow you to pick Peltier, because Peltier was brilliant as a right back up until his injury. So it allows that. He's okay at centre half, but he has issues, Peltier. So I think if Blackett can play 90 or even 60, 75 minutes, to be honest with you, he doesn't need to play full game, does he? But it just allows a bit more balance in the back four, assuming you go back four.
Yeah, Peltz has struggles positionally playing in the back four, in the centre of the back four. For me, so yeah, he needs to be out on that. He needs to be out on the right, but you'd hope to that Kyoso might get a look in as well. We'll have to wait and see. I think he will make some changes, and I think John's mentioned it in the comments there. He needs to shore up that midfield. That's where the issue is. Oh, that was where the issue was the other day. We'll see. Conor Coventry may well be less ill by Tuesday, and that might make a difference. So, and Preston may well approach the game differently to the way that Birmingham did. I think a lot of the reasons we played so badly was because of the way that Birmingham approached the game, and just nullified us. Preston may not treat us with the same respect as Birmingham did. You know, fingers crossed. But we'll see. But there'll be a couple of changes, I suspect. But where they'll be is anybody's guess. I can't see Georgie Kelly starting. No, I just can't see that happening. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think any injuries came through from Saturday, and I don't think anybody's due back either. Billy Wright might be back for the weekend, but I think that's unlikely. I think it might be out for the World qualifiers or whatever it is with Australia. So that's a shame for him. Keep an eye out for international call-ups. Most of them will be the coming week. You'd expect one for Chio. Yelda may get a youth call-up. I don't think he's in the senior setup, but watch out for Yelda. And we all hope Victor gets one as well.
Maybe Fosu for Ghana if they're playing as well.
Did Matt Taylor not say to Paul Davis at the advertiser that they were expecting 6 international call-ups?
Yeah, so you got Fergie and Washington, Chio. I assume Yellow as a youth, but I don't know. That's all I've got. Those
maybe Fozu.
Maybe Fozu or a push.
That's your 5. What else would there be?
Bailey Wright, obviously. Bailey Wright, yeah.
I didn't think Bailey Wright had been called up for Australia for 2 years.
He went to World Cup.
Did he go? Right, fair dues then. I didn't think he had. My understanding was that he'd not been there since 2018.
You might be thinking of Fozu. I don't think Fozu's been called up lately.
Right.
I think
it's got to be Victor. If Victor does not get a call up to the Sweden squad, then I'm sorry, but there's something's not right. Because I cannot believe for the life of me that there are 2 better goalkeepers, Swedish goalkeepers on this planet. I'm not having it. I'm just not wearing it.
Fozu hasn't played for Ghana since 2021, so I think he is unlikely to get a call up. Which obviously puts. Look, we'll see. We're going full Sweden kit if he gets a call up though.
Oh yeah, big time.
Absolutely, I've got the shirt upstairs ready. Yeah.
He's one of the youngest ones as well, isn't he, Victor? All the rest of them seem to sort of be in the late 20s, 30s, mid 30s. Swedish keepers.
I think the only one that's younger than Victor is Pontus Dahlberg, who was at Doncaster last season. Bad. Yeah, so if that's who Victor has to contend with, I hope and pray they see sense and call him up quickly.
Yeah. Look, let's hope he gets a call up. He's under contract now, so if he gets a call up and has a storming game, there's another few million quid on price tag.
I think we should start some sort of campaign to bombard the Swedish FA with emails and telephone calls, or some form of, I don't know, internet.
We'll fork out 20 quid to ring Sweden up and go, now then, play our Victor.
Emails are free, so emails and tweets are free.
Yeah.
Matt the Miller says Olsen is I think he's their first choice keeper. I think he's 37, and I think he's second or third choice at Aston Villa. Well, look, we've gone long as it is. Victor should get caught.
Yes, he should.
Anyway, we're not prediction now. If you have watched him from the Sweden FA, I don't know why you are. Welcome. Subscribe if you haven't already. And please call it Victor Hansen to the national squad because he deserves it. Right, predictions for Preston. Mick?
1-1.
1-1. Negative. Danny?
After the display against Birmingham, I'm happy with a 0-0 if I'm being honest.
0-0. Oh, Joy, is there any positivity coming from you?
Okay, all right then. I'll go positive and I'll say, because they don't score any, but then again they don't let many in. 2-1 to us.
Don't like it. I'm going to go 2-0. Nice and positive. I'm going to back the home form. Preston. Mike Mill says, Preston, it must be a 9-goal thriller.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen? Do you remember Stoke last time we were in Championship?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That 3-3. Was that the 3-3 one?
It was, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Scoring game of season then on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Ellis says 1-1. Dean Kelly 2-1. John Morell says 0-0. Kim Haywood 1-1. Harvey Kelwick 2-1. Carl Scott says 2-1. Josh Hinsliff I think he's going to keep saying this till he gets it right. Josh is saying 1-0 Hugo penalty top right 90+6. I think he says that every week.
That'll be a day where Rotherham get awarded a penalty after 80 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to Donny for that, won't you? Darren Cower says 2-1 to the Millers. Ryan S says 2-1 to Preston. He says they're underrated. Andrew Kelly says if we win, I'm back on the Sambucas.
Oh dear.
Like on a Tuesday night, Andrew. Very good.
Wow.
Shelley says 1-0. Can see it being very tight, but think we will nick it. Hopefully so. And then we'll get hopefully a step closer to safety. And then we'll have Cardiff on Saturday before the break, or the final international break of the season. Anything else we need to mention before we wrap it up?
Howard Webb says hello to everybody, by the way. Because
did he have a moan at you about Mick's moaning?
No, he didn't actually. I described it to him as group therapy, us talking about referees, and he actually agreed with me and said he had a word with Keith Stroud after the Coventry game. I won't repeat what he said, but just understand Howard knows. That's all I'll say. And I really hope Howard did go to the Birmingham game because he ummed and ahed about it whilst we were at the anniversary dinner. So I hope he went, and I hope he saw Jeff Eltringham's performance. But if not, oh well. I hope he sees Steve Martin's one. So yeah, so watching Howard. Hello.
He's had his own problems today with VAR in the Premier League, so he's not got Rotherham United to worry about at the minute.
Hopefully he's here for the group therapy then.
Yes, exactly. So thank you everybody for being with us. Please do subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done already. We will be back on. There'll be the instant reaction. It'll probably be at Wednesday morning after the Preston game, but we'll get that sorted out. Hopefully we'll have a win. We're back, and then we'll be back for the normal podcast Thursday evening on YouTube, 8 o'clock if you want to join us live, or Friday morning for the audio podcast. Please subscribe. And then I don't know what our plans are for the international break, but we will do something probably.
Could do something to do with the England stuff, but we'll decide that later.
Yeah, we'll see who gets called up. Danny, thank you for being back with us. Yeah, the internet's held up perfectly today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I try my best. I've paid the coal bill, so the route is all right.
Very good. Joy, it's been fantastic having you with us again. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, lads.
Cheers. And Mick, a bit of a rant, what we always like. It's what you're here for, isn't it?
To be expected.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And up the Millers.
Up the Millers. Bye.
Bye.
Ravel, ambitious, brilliant. Mule with it. Wood's got round the back, and Richie Wood has done it again. The magic man has come up with another trick. Well, here's a chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie